You're making good money. Not private jet money, but I should be okay money. And Kong? Kong's finally feeling grown. He's been saving. He stopped ordering delivery twice a day as a personality. He even has a spreadsheet. So one night, because all life-changing decisions happen at 12:17 a.m., Kong opens Zillow. And every house that doesn't look like it's being held together by hope and caulk is like $400,000 minimum. The kitchen has countertops that look like they survived 3 roommates and a deep fryer era. The carpet is that exact shade of beige that whispers, "We gave up" during dial-up internet. The basement has fake wood paneling, and the listing calls it a cozy flex space. But Kong sees the photos and goes, "I can fix her." Then the bank says the magic words, "You're approved." The realtor smiles like a game show host. Your parents start casually asking, "So, when are you buying?" Like it's a normal question and not a psychological boss fight. So what's the problem? Here's the problem. Being approved is not the same thing as being able to afford it. Approval is like a restaurant saying, "Yes, you can order the entire menu." Afford is, will you still be happy when the bill hits, and you also need gas, groceries, and a functioning car? Nobody involved in selling you a house gets paid to say, "Hey, this might ruin your life." Their incentives are, let's call them, motivated. So today we're doing the thing the real estate industry hates most. We're going to calculate what your salary actually buys you. Not what the bank will tolerate, not what a lender can securitize. What you can afford without turning your next decade into a tightrope act over a pit of late fees. Let's start with the uncomfortable part. A lot of people in the US are making something like $80K, $90K household income and thinking, okay, middle class, I should be able to buy a normal home. But the homes people actually want, safe area, not falling apart, not 90 minutes from everything, often cost around $400,000 plus in many markets. So we're asking someone making roughly $80,000-ish to buy something that costs about 5 times their income. And then we act surprised when they're stressed. And the internet makes it worse. One guy says, "Just house hack your way to wealth." Someone else says, "I bought a house at 23, you're just not trying hard enough." And your coworker casually drops, "We just closed," while you're holding a lunch you meal prepped like it's a survival skill. So you start thinking, is it me? Am I failing adulthood? No. What's failing is the definition of affordable that everyone keeps using. Because there are 2 completely different numbers at play: the comfort number and the bank number. The comfort number is the kind of guideline you'll hear in personal finance. Don't spend more than about 28% of your gross income on housing. Not just mortgage, everything housing touches. Mortgage, taxes, insurance, HOA, the little fees that show up like surprise guests. The bank number is different. Banks often care about your debt-to-income ratio, and they may approve you with totals up to the low 40% range depending on the situation. And here's what nobody says out loud. That bank threshold is not a lifestyle recommendation. It's a stress test of how much suffering they think you can endure before you stop paying. The bank's goal is not, Kong lives a balanced life. The bank's goal is, Kong does not default immediately. So let's make this real with a very normal example. Let's say you want a $400,000 house. Not a mansion, not a gated estate, just a house that doesn't have good bones listed as the main selling point. You scrape together 10% down. That's $40,000, which for a lot of people is not a quick summer of saving. That's years of being responsible while life keeps charging you subscription fees for existing. So now you're borrowing $360,000. And let's assume an interest rate around 6%, give or take, because we're living in the era of, wait, that's the rate? Your principal and interest payment might land somewhere around a bit over $2,000 a month. And this is where Kong makes the classic mistake. Kong sees that number and goes, $2,000 a month, I can do that. But that's only the front door. Homeownership has a whole hallway of costs behind it, because next comes property taxes. Depending on your state and county, that can be hundreds a month. Then homeowners insurance, also hundreds a month, sometimes more in riskier areas. And if you didn't put 20% down, you get PMI, private mortgage insurance. PMI is basically the monthly fee you pay for not already being rich. It's like the universe going, "Congrats on trying, now pay extra." Then maintenance. The old rule of thumb is budgeting around 1% of the home value per year for maintenance, on average. And on average is doing a lot of work there. Because houses don't break politely. They break like, it's 95 degrees outside and the AC is now a decorative suggestion. So when you add it all up, mortgage, taxes, insurance, PMI, maintenance, you can easily be looking at something like $3,200 to $3,600 per month for that $400,000 house. That's the real monthly cost. Now, what income supports that comfortably? If you try to keep housing around the comfort zone, you're talking something closer to $140,000 to $160,000 household income, depending on the exact costs. But the bank might approve you much lower. So you get this gap, this giant invisible gap between you qualify and you can breathe. And this gap is where people become house poor. House poor is when you technically own a home, but you can't afford to live in it. Your budget becomes a horror movie where every sound is a jump scare. Car needs brakes? That's a crisis. Water heater dies? That's a crisis. A tree falls, a pipe leaks, the roof decides it's done participating? Crisis, crisis, crisis. And you don't even get to enjoy your house because you're too busy protecting it from reality. Let's walk through what this looks like for a normal household. Say a household makes $80,000. On paper, they think, we're doing okay. But after taxes, that monthly take-home might be somewhere around the mid-$4,000 range, depending on benefits and withholding. Now imagine housing costs are about $3,200 a month. That leaves maybe $1,400 to $1,600 for literally everything else. Food, utilities, internet, phones, gas, car insurance, health costs, student loans, basics of life. And if your everything else is bigger than what's left, you don't tighten the belt forever. You start patching holes with credit cards. And credit cards don't fix budgets. They just delay the panic and add interest. That's the trap. Now compare that to what comfortable looks like. A higher income household buying the same priced home with a bigger down payment, no PMI, more margin, can keep housing at a sane percentage of income. They can do retirement contributions. They can build an emergency fund. They can absorb repairs without acting like the roof is a personal betrayal. That's the real difference. Margin. Home ownership isn't just, can I make the payment? It's, can I survive the surprises? Because the surprises are guaranteed. And here's another part people don't talk about enough. The same price buys you a completely different life depending on where you live. A $500,000 budget in one city might mean a tiny condo plus an HOA fee that feels like a second rent. In another city, it's a normal family home. In another, it's basically a small palace where you start speaking in words like library unironically. The housing market isn't broken in one way, it's broken in multiple local ways. Now, let's talk about the generational argument, because this is where Kong gets emotionally attacked at family dinner. Your parents bought a house young. They mention it often. But what they don't always realize is they bought in a different economic universe. Yes, mortgage rates were higher at times. Monthly payments could be brutal. But the purchase prices, relative to incomes, were often more reachable. And a huge difference was they could refinance later when rates dropped. You can refinance interest. You cannot refinance, I overpaid and now I'm trapped. And a lot of people back then didn't start adult life with the same mix of student debt, high car payments, and rising baseline expenses. Which brings us to the next silent killer, other debt. Student loans, car payments, credit card minimums. Debt payments don't just cost money, they steal your borrowing power.
even a few $100s a month can shrink what a bank will lend you by a shocking amount. So you can be making a good salary and still feel like your home options are a shoebox with a welcome mat. And then there's the down payment problem. A 20% down payment on a $400,000 to $415,000 home is $80,000-ish. Saving that is hard, and it gets harder when the goalposts keep moving because home prices can rise while you're saving. It can feel like you're chasing a bus that's pulling away while you're tying your shoes. So the big question everyone asks is, okay, so will the market crash and fix this? Maybe, but building your life plan around a crash is like planning your retirement around winning a lawsuit you haven't filed. A major crash is not a strategy.
And even if prices soften, high rates can keep payments expensive. So what matters is not just price, it's monthly cost and total risk. Also, inventory matters. When lots of homeowners are sitting on older, lower-rate mortgages, they don't want to sell. Because selling means trading a low rate for a higher one. So they stay. Inventory stays tight. Prices don't fall the way buyers dream they will. Here's the blunt truth Kong needed to hear. If the math doesn't work, the math doesn't work, no matter how enthusiastic your realtor is. And no, you are not a failure because you didn't buy a house the second you got a decent job. Let's reconsider all options. You have real options. None of them are glamorous. All of them are valid. The bank's approval is just a math test, not a safety net. Realize that property tax, insurance, PMI, and maintenance are waiting for you right after you sign. There's the mortgage-only number, and there's the real cost number. You do not want to end up holding a wrench in one hand and a credit card in the other. Because living in a glamorous house doesn't mean anything if your budget sheet is haunted. A $500K budget in one city might mean a tiny condo plus an HOA fee that feels like a second rent. In another city, it's a normal family home. Debt payments don't just cost money, they steal your borrowing power. Sometimes renting is buying flexibility and avoiding a financial chokehold. You have to choose between the homeowner trophy and actual life stability. So when the realtor smiles and tells you it's a great time to buy, you have to crush the good vibes with a calculator. There are those selling optimism, those selling loans, and then there is your actual future. So let's open up the toolbox of your real options. Option 1, move. Geographic arbitrage is real. You don't have to fight a battle in a housing market that only rewards inheritance. Option 2, buy less house. Smaller place, longer commute, different neighborhood. Not because you settled, but because you chose stability over ego. Ignore the social media noise and focus on protecting your budget. Option 3, reduce housing cost creatively. Duplex, roommates, renting a room. Not forever, just long enough to build breathing room. It's not glamorous, but neither is spending your 30s whispering, "Please don't break," to your dishwasher. Option 4, wait. Keep renting, keep saving, increase income, improve credit. Waiting is not losing. There is no trophy for being house poor. The only prize you get is a giant invoice with a "due" stamp on it. And if your parents ask again, Kong has a new answer. I'm not scared, I'm not lazy, I'm doing the math. Because the real question isn't, can I get approved? The real question is, will this house make my life better? Or is it secretly a bear trap disguised as a cozy base? The bank whispers approved, but the math screams a warning. You don't want to buy a house that comes bundled with a giant cloud of anxiety. Push away the shame. Focus on numbers and boundaries. Giving up 50% of your take-home pay is like standing on cracking ice. One repair triggers a chain reaction that costs you years of debt. Saving while renting is perfectly fine if it secures your future down payment. Having cash opens up the walls and gives you options. You can always push the goal of buying to a later date. Avoid the financial chokehold entirely. Start your search with your real housing number, not just the dream. Make sure you've accounted for mortgage, tax, insurance, HOA, PMI, and maintenance, because you cannot bargain with the brick wall of reality. An emergency fund shield is the only thing that keeps a repair from becoming a debt spiral. Balance your desire for a house with your need for retirement savings.
If all your money goes into the house, your retirement plan will just droop and die. Leverage is powerful, but make sure you read the warning label. Don't trap yourself inside a wall of cash bricks that you can't actually spend. A bank's approval can sometimes just be a shiny metal chain. What you need is an umbrella for the rainstorm of random expenses that will inevitably hit. Medical bills, car issues, family emergencies, you have to brace for all of it. That means resting easy at 2 a.m. instead of staring at your phone stressed about credit limits. Stay calm, do the honest calculation. Even if everyone else is doing it, you are the only one stuck holding the bill when the spotlight hits. A stable life with a small house is better than a miserable life in a mansion. Just put a no bankrupt sticker on your modest plan and stick to it. Build your safety cushions: emergency, maintenance, and investing. With a big cushion, a broken pipe is just a small annoyance, not a life disaster. Train your finances, lift your credit, save your cash, boost your income. There is immense peace in having a totally boring, checklist-driven plan. Let the loud crowd run themselves ragged. You just keep walking sustainably. Don't let the price tag shrink your wallet while hidden gremlins empty it. Shine a flashlight on all those hidden costs they try to sweep under the rug. Use your brain to push back against the pressure. Confidently sidestep the bear trap of a bad deal. Smart moves will light your way through this dark and unfair maze. See a house as a toolbox for your life, not a vanity crown for your ego. Carry the backpack your life can actually support, and reject the massive crate the bank says you're allowed to lift. Or will it just turn my money into a monthly tribute to a bank while I stress about insurance and pray nothing leaks? Your salary buys you less house than you think, and understanding that before you sign anything might be the most expensive lesson you don't have to learn the hard way.